What's good, everybody? My name is Alckemy, and what you are staring at is the Polyend play. Now, I've had this for about 6 months. I bought it with my own money, and I wanted to make sure that I knew all the ins and outs of it before I did a review, although it really is pretty straightforward and really intuitive to kind of figure out and discover on its own. The key thing about this and what sets itself apart from other grooveboxes or even something, say, like the MPC, is on one end, it does not have any kind of synthesizers built into it, but it has so many random chances and like cool ways to like fill out your groove thing and switch out samples and stuff that just makes it really fun. So within this grid, everything can have a step on it, kind of like so. And what's really awesome is that every step can be completely unique with its own sample, with its own effects. You can change it to a reverse if you wanted to, or you can have, specific other effects that are built into it via here, whether it be like a filter or like a repeat type or even a chance. So because of this unique step sequencer in that way, there's a lot of potential for not only performance, but also generating almost complete, I would say, like main section ideas within this. I did recently put out a sample pack regarding this. It is called Aurora, and that's available on my website to anybody that's interested in the Polyend play. I don't really think that there's anything else on the market available yet because of the weird architecture that this has, but I'm getting ready to show you that right now. We're going to pull up some stuff from that pack, and I'm going to show you just how awesome this thing is. So with that, be sure to like and subscribe if you like hardware stuff. I typically don't do hardware things. I have this and I have an MPC Live 2, but this is such a refreshing way to approach coming to make music that I think that it is really fun and again, just something that's outside of sitting in a chair in the DAW all day. I will say that this is connected via USB-C, and it takes a 3.5 millimeter jack, and it's got a MIDI in and a MIDI out. I don't really mess with the MIDI stuff, to be honest, but the one thing that I hope that they add in a future update is the ability to sync this to your DAW via USB. It can do it via the MIDI in. I don't know how to do that because, again, hardware isn't my thing, but that's like one of the biggest complaints that I have about that. So the way that this goes is you pretty much can load up to 255 samples into this thing. And if we click on this, we just go to samples and we go to load sample pack or load files and folders. Now, most of my sample packs and stuff are too big, so we want to load things up in a matter of batches. So if we scroll down here, we go to Aurora, we can upload some kicks and just go load folder. Then we can go to some narrow bases. Let's just upload maybe the second one and see that it's loading here. It'll tell you how much memory you have. And this isn't going to be a comprehensive review, so I'm not going to teach you everything about this, but I will show you how quick and easy it is to get some pretty sick sounds and pretty sick grooves very quickly. So we're loading some impacts here. There we go. Now let's get some maybe plucks from batch 4. And then we're really just going to try to fit as much stuff into this as possible. And let's get some sticks in here and go load folder. Pretty easy. And then maybe we can get some snares as well, or maybe even some claps. Let's do that. So let's just go claps dry and load that first folder. So now that we have that, we pretty much built the entire kit of everything that we're going to need to like use within the step sequencer. And what's really cool about this is the way that it's organized is based off of this architecture here, to where you have your categories and you can upload those banks within that. And so even though it's kind of confusing developing, sample packs for this in particular, it makes a lot of sense in the way that this works because of how you actually load samples into the thing in general. So if we were to just place this right here and I go to my sample, you can see that the folder is all the way over here, and we can just find our kicks. And then you can see that we can scroll through this category in this way in which to find these in general. So this is important because what this means is if I wanted to change this kick or something, then I can kind of scroll through and do all that other stuff. But when it comes into the chance and randomization as well, we're going to be able to pull from those banks or pull from those folder archetypes in which to variate this. So as a quick demonstration, if I were to set this and hit play, I can use this over here to highlight the entire track, and then I can randomize this and use completely different samples each time. Likewise, within this aspect, I can say, all right, well, on every single step here, I want a 50% chance that it's going to play, 40%, doesn't matter. Hit play. And you can see that now we've added some randomization to this. Now, one of the key features that I thought was incredibly important for me anyways is that if you know my channel, you know that I love halftime, I love swingy beats, I love boom bap, all that stuff. And I really wanted to make sure that we could use something on here that was in the style of like adding off times or swing or so. And it's not just swing, it's more about nudging and setting things off grid. So if we were to click on these two here, which I'm going to use the same track for a reason for sidechain purposes here in a bit. But if I set this here and I go to sample and I go to outcome, maybe sticks, and I just grab a stick, doesn't really matter. If I continue to hold on these and I go to the move over here, then I can nudge these a little bit early. So now whenever I play this, this is going to be just slightly moved over to the left to where it's a little bit early. And likewise, I can move this one a little bit late as well. And again, this is so cool because every step is unique. And that's one of the main like crazy features about this, just for the sheer fact that like you can do this stuff. So now let's take a listen to this. Let's go ahead and grab that chance back and set that to 100%. Now, in the same way, I can also add a little bit of reverb to these. And I can add a high pass filter on these. But you can see that even though this is on the same track and we have 8 tracks, the kicks are unaffected. This is super cool, and if I were to change the sample or randomize the sample, all of the settings would be preserved within this. So now that we have that, we can start to fill the rest of this out by doing some other things that might be a little bit more interesting. I'm going to highlight these, and I'm going to hit the fill button over here, and what I'm going to do is hit random, and fill, and let's go to this tab here and maybe do like 25%. In this way, and I hit fill, and now look, we've got some percussion here that we can work with. Now by default, everything is set to the last sample that you set this to, so let's go ahead and change this into, actually let's go ahead and grab this, and we're going to go and load in some hi-hats. And now that we have that, we can actually fill this in with hi-hats. And let's just grab that there, and now we can take a listen. Not that interesting yet. Let's focus on this track first. And what we're going to do is we're just going to highlight all of these, and we're going to micro move this super late, as late as it can go. And then what we're going to do is we're going to randomize this, just like this, and hit play. Sounds pretty cool, but we can change the pitch of these now. There we go. Now we can focus on this one as well and do the same thing. If we wanted to copy one, then we can just hold this until it becomes purple and move it over. And suddenly we've got ourselves a groove. That's how fast this is and how really it's incredibly intuitive in that way. Now, if I were to highlight all of these, which now that we have a groove, it's really already starting to come together, I can again randomize all the samples within a folder if I wanted to. So I'm going to hit play, randomize. if I like something, I can hit save. Now, all of that groove that we just made is already there. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and start thinking about what kind of bass we want to use. And I am going to just kind of place a couple of these here, leave a little bit of spaces here, and I'm going to go sample and move this over. We're going to do some impacts. And I'm going to change the note back to the original pitch. Now, by default, I have everything set to be tuned to C, and the reason why is because the natural root note of this is C, and there's no way for it to detect the pitch. So I think that it's easier for you to just make everything at C, and then if you wanted to kind of change the note of one thing or the other, for example, I wanted to change the note of this, I can go. Now, whenever we listen to this, already we're getting something that's starting to sound really cool and really, again, really swingy. So I can move everything off a little bit. It's already there for us, actually. And now we can start thinking about maybe creating some kind of melody with this. So I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to rhythmically think where I want to place this. So boom, 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 boom. Something kind of like that. I'm going to change the pitch of this one because I already know. Then I'm going to highlight all of these and we're going to go into our sample here and we're going to find some. And let's go ahead and audition that. Maybe we can solo this. This one is mute, this one's solo, this one is variation, which we'll talk about in a different video, and then we have select the entire thing. But let's go ahead and solo that and listen to how that sounds. Maybe change the sample. Now, this is starting to sound and come together pretty nicely, but one thing with this is that I want the basses on here to be a little bit shorter. So now I'm going to grab the sample start. I'm just going to pull this back. I'm going to listen to this until it sounds right. So once we have something like that, now, again, we can randomize this. But before I do that, we're going to click on the patterns button here. We're going to hold this down and copy this. So now we've got the original sound. Now within this, we can kind of scroll through all this and begin to kind of really open up and play. Hence the name of the thing. We've also got these other random types that we can do. The entire pool if we wanted to. So we can go here and go to sample and pool, which is everything, and then we can change this up and see if we can see something different. From a performance sake, like you can hear, like this just is amazing because everything is already in time and in rhythm, and what we're doing is just replacing the sounds and swapping it out. And this is where I feel like this really shines. There's all of these different effects as well. For example, you've got filters, you've got reverb, you've got delay, you've got overdrive and bit crushing, and then you've got your perform effects here. So if I were to highlight everything here, you've got pitch, filtering, I believe. Delays, beat repeats, reverb, loops. And I believe the last one is just looping in different ways. So now that we have that, we can essentially sketch all the different components to where we want to go with this. So for example, you know, we've got an A part, a B part. Let's go ahead and make a C part now. Sorry, let me copy this. And we'll go here. And now that we have this, maybe instead what we can do is we can add in, you know, a new kind of hat or a new kind of rhythm. So we'll go here to boons, 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 boons. Let me see what this is already. I believe that this should be hats. So we can grab these two, go into this here, and go into hats. That sounds a little bit open already. So we can go there, grab that one, change that into the same sample. And this one as well. So go sample. Take a listen. Maybe with this, you know, we want to switch out the impact of the neuro. Maybe right here we want to copy this one, but this one needs to be an octave up. We're going to adjust the length of this one. Save that one as a pattern, and same thing applies. So within this, hopefully you can see like how amazing this is and how quick it was to sketch something within a matter of less than, you know, what, like 15 minutes, as I spent the first couple minutes talking about this. This can do any kind of genre that you want to, but halftime is my favorite. And obviously, if you get your own sounds loaded into this and you figure out kind of like how the archetype works, then it's incredibly fast and intuitive to come up with stuff. Because now that we have these different parts, like this is pretty much the main section, right? And all we have to do is take the same ideas that we've written and replace the sounds, or maybe add something or shift something a little bit. And this is the same way that you would work as if you would in the DAW. Now, the one other complaint that I have within this is that unfortunately, like the quality of the bass sounds that I'm kind of coming through on this doesn't paint the whole picture. And the reason why is because whenever you upload a sample into this, it automatically converts it into mono, and then it has a stereo output. So the samples go in as mono, but if you have reverb or delay or something, or even panning of the sort, it'll come out as stereo. So that's one thing that you have to be really mindful of whenever you're throwing stuff in here. And for me, I tend to love to use like mid-side things to make my basses really wide, or to make my kicks and snares really wide. So if you don't, you know, if you know that coming into this and you're using it just as a sketch pad, then that's great. But other than that, that's one thing that you might have to be mindful of. The other thing that I would like to see improved within this, as I've mentioned before, and I just want to reiterate this, is MIDI syncing, or some kind of better recording as opposed to having to send this through into my interface. And I had an issue with this because my interface, the last one that I had was just a cheap M audio thing. But if you have the issue where you're plugging this in and you're only getting part of the sound, try an unbalanced cable. That might solve your issue. Otherwise, you might have to do the thing where you kind of half unplug this in order to get all the sounds to come out. It was really inconvenient. That does work though. There's nothing wrong with your machine. It's just the fact that like you might have to change it into either an unbalanced cable or something of the sort. I recently upgraded this to the Volt, and I love my new interface, and it's wonderful, but that's a whole different thing. But within that, these are kind of the only complaints that I have. I would love there to be more memory, of course. I would love a built-in battery, but thankfully this thing takes so little power to, you know, actually work, that you can actually plug this into like a power bank or something, and then, you know, kind of play with it on the fly there. The only other thing that I kind of wanted to just quickly cover on and not necessarily go more in depth into is the fact that you can actually change this into MIDI if you go into Shift. So if you've got other devices and you want to use this as your host to kind of send MIDI out, you can do that. I have not done it because I don't have any hardware to do that with, so I can't really cover that in that aspect. But in this particular case, this is so much fun to work with, and it's very quick and intuitive to just get something up and going. And this will actually teach you a lot about composition when it comes to making beats, regardless of what genre you're in. The trick to it is to allow it to inspire you and to make those creative choices and to see those kinds of things, and to try to like keep this as an open mind. Is like, this is not meant to replace your DAW. It's not even meant to, necessarily replace other aspects of your hardware. This is meant to sketch ideas in such a quick way that helps you translate into whenever you're ready to write a whole song. The only reason why I particularly would not like record with this, or like, I guess like you want to make sure to have the right mindset. Stereo is very important to me. So I don't necessarily want to like sketch an entire beat like this and then just have it be in mono and then like add stereo processing later, although you could do that. There's also no way to export tracks individually. So you can save your project, you can save your performance, but there's no way to bounce stems. So, if there was a way to do that, that might be another thing to, maybe discuss. But even still, the tactile feel of this, the tactile like intuitiveness of this is what drew me to purchasing something like this. I almost bought a tracker, and I'm so glad that I waited out a little bit longer to grab the Polyend Play, because this thing is just so much fun to use. And it really just keeps on giving back with how easy it is to randomize stuff, to, do these crazy fill effects and whatnot. And this is actually something that is much better at doing than, I say, like the MPC Live, because the MPC Live has a bunch of effects and stuff, but this allows you to combine stuff in such a way and has so many more like glitch things that it's really easy to do like insane fills. Like, I know that the MPC has like, and I'm not trying to compare, but I know that MPC has like XY effects, which is pretty cool. And, you can do like beat repeat and a low pass filter. But when you do stuff like the Duke Nuke or whatever, it just like blows it up, and then you're like, oh man, that's super sick. So if you do like a Duke Nuke and then you highlight everything and then do a low pass filter, then you can kind of sweep everything, add that to, some of the performance effects, and, you're stretching your fingers out, but you can do all that stuff. It's pretty neat. I guess maybe one last thing to cover is that I didn't really talk about is like, you do have longer lengths within just this sequence. So you can set this to however many bars you want if you want to. So, you can set this to 16 bars, or 16 steps, or up to, well, a lot. And for whatever reason, if like this is going and you have this step to more, then what it's going to do is once this is done playing, it's going to kind of move to the next sequence and then have like darker, I guess, like empty nodes for you to fill in with. So man, it's super cool. I didn't even talk about variations or anything of the sort, but man, I hope that you all enjoyed this. I love this thing. It's not perfect, but I continuously love to come back to this from time to time, just because it's a lot of fun and very, very fast, very gratifying. It almost feels like cheat codes in some ways. Thank you all so much. Please like and subscribe if you like this kind of content, and let me know your thoughts on the Polyend Play and whether or not you think that this could be something that's fun, regardless of how much it is. It's very expensive. It's like $800, but I don't regret it because it's a lot of fun. All right, guys, thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.